Good, good. Well, it is an absolute pleasure to speak with you. Even though your day is just getting started, your morning been good so far, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. I'm just excited to talk to you guys and keep doing some random interviews here and there. It's fun. It's fun doing this kind of stuff, you know? So it's a good day. It's a good Friday for us.
Oh, fabulous. Well, I mean, considering where we're at, we're now what? Well, we're almost at the month mark for the new album having been out,
Yeah.
Requiem. So in
Oh,
theory, the expectation, I think, in most people's head is things are calm, things are relaxed now. Is that
yeah.
true? And what's kind of keeping you busy?
Yeah, I would say it's true for the most part. The things that
Hmm.
are keeping us busy are really just trying to follow up and keep relevant because it seems like that's just the whole name of the game these days. It's not helpful to put out an album that you're really happy with and
Hmm.
just kind of leave it be. You kind of have to do all the other, social media nonsense and like, hey, this is what we're doing now, and just try to stay relevant, which is tough for us because we all work full-time jobs, and you know, I like to say like we're not social media influencers. We're a death metal band. I'm allowed to swear, right?
Of course, see, absolutely.
We're a fucking death metal band, not social media influence. So it's tough, but it's just the name of the game, right? So in essence, like that whole chaos whirlwind of the hype and the real push to get everything up until the release date, that's all kind of calmed down for sure.
Hmm.
So now it's just about like saturating and letting everything kind of soak in amongst everyone and try to. I think the thing I like about this section more is that we kind of get to pick and choose specific parts of the album that we really like and just kind of pinpoint and highlight those, as opposed to pre-release. It's like, here's a single, do with that as you may, right? So yeah, you get the whole
Did you
album.
did you have a plan? Like, I mean, because you're absolutely right. The getting it, keeping it relevant and keeping it in people's minds and getting it constantly played is well, I mean, it's damn impossible, and there's no surefire
Yeah.
way to do it. Did you have a plan, a kind of rough idea of what you guys wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean the goal was to like, follow up with shows and do a couple of tours, right?
Yeah.
And there's a whole story behind obviously why we're booking shows but haven't really gotten like we wanted to do a CD release show but actually decided it probably wasn't the best idea. So there's a lot of information there, but the plan essentially was to just try to keep promoting everything online and just
Hmm.
try to ensure that we get the best bang for our buck when we do play shows because like I said we all work full time. We're all
Yeah.
mid 30s kind of set in our ways. And when we do play shows, it does have to be a little bit more worth it. We have to be a little bit more like tactical about how we go about it. It has to be, just dialed in and it will at some point.
Hmm.
And in reality, like, actually having seen Archspire's recent post about how much they pay for just things like PR and advertising, it's like we didn't even scratch the surface compared to what they're going for.
Hmm.
So post release for us, it's like maybe there's other opportunities. And I mean it's frustrating because it is this pay to play game where,
Of course.
yeah, everything on Meta and Google is pay for these advertisements, and as soon as you pay for one, it's like, well, here, keep paying, or else you're not going to get visibility and or whatever conspiracy you want to like conspire about it. But yeah, yeah. So the plan is essentially to start playing shows at some point here within the year's end, do some tours. Eventually get abroad, come see you guys, go to Europe, Australia. That's the goal. And hopefully that happens within the next year or two. So,
And along the way, let's all just keep talking about you and the album and how good
thank
it
you.
is, and that will help immensely when it comes to these algorithms, because
Yeah,
it's the mentioning and the talking and the comments and the interactions
yeah.
that seem to make the difference.
And I hate being the person to say, like, hey, leave a comment below. And, like, I'm not that person. And, like, try to share it with your friends. I mean, that's all good and well. And that's obviously, how things kind of, like you said, circulate.
Mm.
It's just, it feels a little cringy to me for me to say it, you know.
And it is because it's attached to that whole end of YouTube video, like, subscribe, and share, and all that nonsense that became
Oh
kind of
God.
like a buzzword to a degree.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
it is free for every single person. If someone, for example, stumbles across a track of yours, say on Spotify, maybe it's part of a playlist, they discover it.
Mhm.
Just little download, little plus next to it that tells that
Yeah.
algorithm potentially that they like that track. Just the smallest thing that costs the listener, the person, nothing.
Yeah, 1000%. You know, I try to be a good Samaritan and do the same thing. And like you said, it's free as opposed to the alternative. Because yeah, it's just kind of crazy how much you can end up spending on some of those platforms just for, just for visibility.
Visibility via bots as well. But anyway, let's move on from that because it's a depressing subject.
Sorry to go down that rabbit hole, but it's always on my mind. It's just like, ah, God,
And so it should be because you've got a
yeah,
full-time job, but it is another job you are, whether you like it or not, a social media
yeah,
manager as well.
yep, absolutely, yep.
Oh, what does an average day in the life of Alex look like?
So for the most part, I work remote these days, so that's
Hmm.
nice. For maybe the past seven, no, actually probably 8-ish years, did a lot of traveling for work and, was basically building conference rooms. Got super lucky and got paid to see a bunch of cool places. And instead of touring where I would pay to see a bunch of cool places, you know, each is fantastic. So I spent a lot of time away from home and eventually moved down here to San Diego. So I'm about 8 hours drive from the rest of the band. So oftentimes, during the weekdays, it's really just like go to the gym, fight people for whatever reason, and as I go to MMA gym and
Yep.
work, and then try to just this. If you could see, like this is my little studio office dojo thing.
Mm.
Just kind of sit here and tinker away, and let me see if I can give you a little full. Got some of the other guitars hanging
Oh,
on the
cool,
wall
cool,
over
cool,
there and
cool. Yeah.
such. There we
Oh,
go.
yeah.
Yeah. So, just try to tinker away in here. And this is where the magic kind of tends to happen. And when I get sick of this room, I go out to the beach or something or go to a bar and hang out with friends. Yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty simple human.
I'm
So
glad.
how does the music get created, you're wondering? I don't know either.
Well, we are at this stage. I mean, we are a long way away from the dust settling on this record. It's not quite a month yet. There's a long way to go, but it's been out long enough to get an array of opinions. And
Yeah.
do some digging myself. Majority are extremely positive. Are you happy with the response so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like we said, it's just that getting visibility because sometimes it's like people, and I feel bad for the reviewers too. They spend their,
Mhm.
hard-earned time listening and writing up nice reviews and everything. And sometimes it's like, man, even they don't get the traction they deserve, right? So, but yeah, absolutely. Super happy with a lot of the reviews. And some of the reviews that were negative, were just like, I mean, they don't affect us in any way. It just seems like, well, maybe you're not in the right place, or this, genre as a whole really isn't for you, So
Hmm.
a lot of the negative critiques, I feel like were just people that, yeah, like I said, just maybe this kind of music is not their style. So, you
Hmm.
know,
Oh, I would like to have read a scathing review. I didn't come across any.
angry metal guy is one, and he started
Oh,
off the, but he started off the interview with tech death is not my cup of tea, and I'm like, well, why are you interviewing or sorry, reviewing? Why are you reviewing it then? But and that's okay. Like we're all metalheads. We're all kind of an opinionated breed, aren't we?
hmm.
So yeah, but
I kind of get it and I don't because I think like what's the point of having a mind if it's not to be freaking changed? I love having
sure.
my mind changed. There are many genres that aren't necessarily up there as my favorite, but my God, do I want to have a go at it just in case, you know?
Yeah,
But we kind of got a rule with our website and channel where if we don't like something, we just won't cover it. So like
yeah.
that's the idea. No press instead of actual negative press. That's kind of how we operate. But obviously not everybody has to does that or everyone's got their own way of doing things, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but I love that because, as our parents taught us when we were kids, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. But in the world that we live in, social media, there's a lot of crazy people out there. And it is helpful to have conversation regardless, and whatever that may be. That's kind of why podcasts are popular, right? So
Yeah, yeah, and of
yeah,
course, I mean, forget the review side of things. A comment section alone, a YouTube video comment section
yeah.
can give you all the feedback you need.
Yes, yeah, it can be a dumpster fire. Thankfully, ours so far, I've read a lot of the YouTube comments have been awesome. So happy about that. Yeah.
Are you good at kind of balancing? Because that's a bit of a hole you can fall into, comment sections and things
Oh,
people say on there. Are you able to kind of distance yourself and stand back from that and see it objectively?
yeah. Like Mike Tyson once said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. I think I just know, I think I have my own confidence about myself that I would never say stupid shit like that. And people in person won't say that either. So,
Mm,
that's just,
well,
the internet is the internet. So, yeah, it doesn't really bother me, you know.
I hear
It's
safety
just,
behind the keyboard, isn't it?
yeah, it is funny though. I do, and watching some comments is funny. I definitely get a kick out of it.
Some of the more positive things that I've read about the album is that your Evolve sound is being recognized. This is a step up, it's a forward momentum for you. In particular, of course, as well, a very positive response to Crystal on vocals. It was it quite important
Awesome.
for you to see that recognized?
I think so. Yeah. I know so, and no matter how much I say, like, yeah, obviously, like those reviews don't affect me. I mean, they probably do to a degree. You just, intake and then kind of output information and do with it as you please. But
Mm,
maybe more so to her because this is her first project. Like, she's never been a part of a band and anything. And I don't want to say it was hand holding, but it was like, a good amount of reassurance in
mm,
that she had what it took to be. I mean, for this to be like somebody's first project is pretty pretty intense.
mm,
And we're demanding, right? Like, the way the rest of us have already had like just a handle on our instruments as it is. We've all been playing our instruments for like 20 years or whatever. So for her to kind of jump in, and I think the most important thing while we were recording that I kept telling her is that your instrument is unique. Your
mm.
voice is your instrument. It's unique. It's not gonna sound like anybody else, and that's actually like your superpower, right? And I think she did a great job at kind of allowing us to, because she didn't really have like a whole lot of obviously experience, but like she allowed us to really get outside of this vocal box. If you're like listening to music, I don't know I think I said it better yesterday. She was malleable. She was very malleable in that like we can convince her to do and try unique things that would set her apart from just other vocalists, I thought.
Yeah.
And like our previous vocalist had kind of instilled that in me too, because he was sort of a creative savant. And unfortunately had to part ways with him, but
Hmm.
Crystal took over, and that is another reason why I'm sure you're asking that question. And when she took over, was kind of scared that she wasn't going to sound like Adam, our previous vocalist. But it's like I'm so excited to hear how she's going to play our old songs live, because after this recording, she did such a killer job that I think she's going to just make those other songs better, right?
Mm.
So,
Certainly give it a unique, different spin on at least.
yeah.
Yeah, it blows my mind when when I first read first project thing, I was kind of I thought I misread it and it was like, oh no, maybe first sort of like this style of music, this style of tech
Yeah.
death kind of thing. It was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, well, incredible.
Yeah, and like I said, so all props to her for being open, malleable, tweakable, and eventually just getting it done. I think even she would probably tell you though she could have done a better job, and that's not my opinion, but she said it before, and I'm like, sure. I mean, that's how we all feel about our
Yeah.
own individual, So
It's after the fact as well. I mean, it's always you're
yeah,
inevitably going to look back and think, oh, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. I mean, who doesn't do that?
yeah,
And I don't think I've spoken
yeah,
to an artist, any creative that hasn't said that.
sure, yeah, exactly.
Well, summarize if you can what you think this new album says overall about Ominous Ruin as you stand here in 2025.
Yeah, it's cool looking back at it because I think half of it was probably written like 3 or 4 years ago at this point.
Mm,
It's just kind of the way the whole band had to stop, rethink, and then change vocalist, transition to Crystal. That looking back on it now, this album really just represents the closing of a chapter in all of our lives. And the way I wrote most of the music, or the way the how it all basically came and was formed, was through emotion and experiences that we were all going through at the time.
Hmm.
So it's one chopped up way of saying that we all had a tough time around 20, the pandemic started, and that just caused, or seemed to have caused, like a myriad of other issues around all of us, both personal and in the project. And again, hence we had to move forward from our previous vocalist.
Yeah.
And yeah, and after this one, I mean, I really feel like we've kind of set who we are now. We've got all this stuff established. Our couple albums have been established now, and now we have like a great bond between all of us. And I think everything there is more of a recipe for success. So yeah, like I said, just closing of a chapter, moving forward, and hopefully making more incredible stuff. So
Well, of course, of course, of course, but I do need to keep looking backwards slightly here in particular.
sure.
Although this might be a little bit of a tricky one considering the length of time certain songs were written over. It's really about that early creative vision for the record. Did you have one, and was it clear enough?
Yeah, I think so. And I think because the first song immediately starts as a continuation from the last album,
Yeah.
that song was kind of written as that last album was already out, or like put out. And then I had an idea that I wanted to have it be two songs back to back. And eventually, like, I kind of started with the first riff of each song is how those two songs started initially. And then I just wanted to blend them together. So eventually that kind of happened. And then the same thing happened with the fourth and fifth songs. And I remember certain days sitting and writing based on emotion, of like Architect of Undoing, obviously is like this 8-minute whirlwind. and Requiem is the fastest song. It's at 300 BPM, which, shout out to Artspire for making that normal. It's like, okay. But yeah, and there was a vision overall, and there was a couple songs that I have written that I left off because I didn't really feel like they fit the vision, where again, I think even back then I kind of knew it was like the closing of a chapter. So I really kind of feel like the abrupt end of Requiem 2 just shuts the door. And I'm excited for that to be all that it is. And then again, move forward and write other stuff. So
Particularly during that though, that period in time, and obviously the change occurring in the band could have obviously upended all direction. Any plans or thought process you had around it? Were you able to stay on a clear kind of path where you knew this is what the album's going to be?
No. It's so hard. I'll try to give some brief backstory as to what happened. So I want to say we recorded drums at my friend Cody's studio called Rapture Recordings in Hayward. Shout out to Cody. He's the man.
Yeah.
That was in March of 2023. Yeah, 2023, because I had already moved to San Diego. So, that alone is like the album was recorded essentially for like 2 years, minus the vocals. After that, we, Adam, our previous vocalist, had all the lyrics, but just struggled to record everything, had some health issues and other personal issues that, we won't go into. And eventually, missed a bunch of studio dates and so Mitch is the bass player too. Mitch, Adam, and I just were talking a bunch solo just to, keep Joel and Harley from having to deal with any external drama. And it just eventually didn't work out. That process took about like a year to a year and a half.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then around that time, I was just kind of like just content with it kind of never happening, or like whenever Adam finished his vocal recordings, which we had no idea, that I would just mix and master it and then just move on. And then, just leave it be. But eventually, like we just determined, why did we do that? We already put so much time and effort. So then, um, I Crystal's been a good friend of ours for a long time.
Hmm.
We all grew up in the Bay Area. Like the Bay Area metal scene is pretty tight knit. Um, Ton of friends that obviously live out there and also play in bands.
Mm.
And so eventually, like I had recorded her. I should take a step back because I had recorded her for a previous song on our first album where she did a guest spot, and that's how I knew she was already legit as a vocalist.
Mm.
And I'd already heard enough, but it didn't come across my mind to ask her to be the vocalist of this project until like we just decided, Mitch and I decided that we needed to move on, and then I was like, I don't know why or who else I could really like rely on to fill in because it's such a weird, yeah, and like vocalist too for me can be cringy. I'm not a fan of like most vocalists, unfortunately. I'm sorry guys, but like it just depends on I guess the style and the mood, but
Mm.
um, I guess we've been listening to metal for so long. I just really wanted to do something unique. And so she being that like unique piece was really that the thing that sold me. And obviously not just because she's a girl, but because she's actually got a fucking killer voice.
Oh
And
yeah.
the fact that she is a woman, I should say, she brings us all together in a much better way. There is like not only is she cool and funny, but we're all just more cohesive now. Everything is like more tight knit. So
Huh.
yeah, feminine energy, as we all know, was awesome. So and yeah, and so eventually, like we just hit the ground running with her. Tried to record as fast as we could. Tried to get it out in July of 24. We missed the record label's deadline. I think other people submitted their albums ahead of us, and then they were full. So then it ended up coming out in May,
Boom.
like a year later. So
That's an
yeah.
aspect we always forget about, isn't it? Those record label
Yeah,
deadlines.
I tried to ask. I tried to say like, what is the last day that we could do to get it out? I guess in October or November, and then they just had other people submit that they weren't expecting. So we're like, God damn it! But at the end of the day, like if it had come out last year, I probably wouldn't have been ready for all the release because it is a lot of stuff that goes into it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
because of course, I mean, the build period for an album release can be anywhere from 3 to 6 to 9, depending upon how much money, I guess, is behind it and stuff like that. It can be
yeah,
insane.
totally. Yeah,
Um, See, I mean, I don't want to. You've said it a few times about shutting the door, and I don't want to sort of put words in your mouth. But obviously, there's a sense
yeah.
of relief that this album is now out. While obviously you're incredibly proud of what you've achieved, and you absolutely should be, and we want to see it run as far as it can on its legs. But obviously, you are quite mentally ready to move forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're still talking about the album on purpose, right? So
Yeah.
I appreciate everyone likes it, and it's not something that I am proud of it, yeah, for sure. And it's it just brings back some weird memories here and there, and I do listen to it and still come across those memories, but yeah, I don't know. I still think it's important to try to push it and just hope everyone hears it and yeah, the promotion cycle is not going to stop anytime soon, so I'm prepared for that.
No way. I don't know how long it lasted. Still 2 years. I mean, with touring and stuff like that, was it nowadays? It's considered what
Boy,
two strong years of just non-stop
yeah,
boom.
yeah, and I mean, still going to have to play all the songs at some point, like you said. So
Oh yeah. Um, when you do look back on the entire creative process, that very long creative process, what
yeah,
on a positive side of things, what are some of your favorite memories from the period that just where you just remember having fun or you challenged yourself in a positive way?
I think the best thing is like the dopamine hit when you have a riff that you sit there and record in Pro Tools and you're like, oh, I love that. That sounds so good. That's like, again, I still have like, now I can point out bits and pieces of the album in like specific posts or whatever and just think, I love that little part. I love what I did. I love what Mitch did
Mm.
there. And like, and the creative challenge is always for me either sitting down to structure a song, put it all together. Because a lot of times I'll be writing I'll be playing guitar and just in a mood and trying to write things down, but I can't write things down fast enough. So it's like it's just tough to capture everything. And that's why I actually just converted to just playing everything in Pro Tools and just hitting record.
Okay.
So that way, yeah, so that way I don't forget. Because, I think most bands these days will write in Guitar Pro. And
Mm.
I mean, we're not, obviously, we use Guitar Pro too. It's just sometimes that doesn't create the best product or doesn't capture like the raw energy that I'm looking for. I think it did a good job. I think we did a good job of that this time. And the other creative challenge is obviously working with everyone else, and like ego plays a huge factor in a lot of bands. And I wouldn't say we have, most of us don't have a whole lot of ego, if I'm honest with you,
Mm.
especially like when it comes to working together. But there was instances, I would say for sure with our previous vocalist, where it felt very rigid and like very hard to like if I wrote a specific song that had a specific lead or a guitar solo in one spot, it felt like I was kind of uh, competing with him for no reason, because he
Mm.
had an idea and he didn't want to stray from it, and I had an idea and I didn't want to stray from it, right? So, but these days, I don't know, and that kind of is again like a tribute to like how Crystal, I think, brings us all together and kind of like also chills everything out. So for the most part, and that's another reason why I'm really looking forward to just actually like writing new stuff and putting it all together, because the last two albums I wrote like the majority of the structures. I wrote all the guitar parts except for like some parts here and there,
Mm.
and then programmed the drums like just basic, so that way Harley the drummer could get into the studio and make whatever he wants.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward this time around to being a little bit more open and malleable to like, because Joel, our other guitar player, is an amazing guitar player
Mm.
and songwriter, and so is Mitch. Mitch is a great bass player. Obviously, like he does things on bass that I would never think of. So like, you know, and in general, everyone has a lot of like, I know I can pump out another album like Requiem pretty easily, or maybe not
Yep.
easily, but it's just, then it just becomes another thing of just me, and maybe that will happen still, but in general, like I said, becoming more cohesive and having fun doing it, and the whole creative process is just fun now. So yeah.
It's fair to say you are excited about the future when it comes to
Yeah,
particularly from the songwriting perspective.
you keep saying the past, I keep saying the future. We'll meet somewhere in the middle. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is like the art and stuff too is, once you get like a new art, we have like a few designs that we haven't released yet, and that might become like shirt designs or who knows,
Mhm.
right? But I love that aspect of it too, especially because we could bring in like outside sources to just create their vision of what they think a song is. Like we've given a couple of artists just the lyrics, and then they'll make something and send it to us. I'm like, that's rad. Yeah, that could be easily a shirt and maybe something else, right? So other people's input outside of the band. And then I think we also want to do another music video at some point. That's not just
Okay.
us playing our instruments. So
Okay. So plans are there, including, as you said, talked about touring before. Obviously, I realize you may not be able to tell me anything too concrete here. But what might we be looking at there? Latter half of the year, out and about? Is there anything being talked about properly?
yeah, but it's all mostly like West Coast and potentially
Okay.
some East Coast, America, right?
Yep.
US. It's tough for us to. The main thing that we're realizing is people are booking like 6 to 9 months out for
Hmm.
stuff, and I mean, shit, I saw a tour that was like already February of next year, and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God. All right. So the competition is very high, right? And, obviously like depends on what we can line up is probably, and then who we're going to tour with. And we're open to going a lot of different places. It's just,
Yep.
strategically, how can we do it? And then the world seemingly always in peril. So, you know,
That. Yes, that. Um, I mean, obviously being in America, getting out of the US. I mean, touring the US alone is such a huge challenge in all the places you can go, let alone then going out towards Europe and Asia and stuff like
Yeah,
that. I mean, it's a big ask for many, many bands. So like, I don't think
yeah,
there's any demand or expectation that you should be over in Europe and so on next year or this year or anything like that. But it's still fingers crossed, right?
yeah. Oh, that'd be freaking awesome. That's what we all want to do, right? And that's one of the reasons why we started all this in the first place was just to go, you know, tour, meet people, play 6 shows, and I mean, really just chop it up and see the world. And
Mm,
like I said, I kind of got a little lucky with my job experience to do that. Obviously, didn't see like the whole like if we were going to tour Europe, I haven't toured Europe. I've seen like
mm.
a few cities, right? So that would be awesome. And I enjoy. I think part of the reason why I stuck in my career for so long is I enjoy going to those places and talking to local people and just seeing what's up, you know? So excited to do that for sure.
Where's somewhere you've been that if you had to, where's somewhere you've been that you could move to, that you liked it that much?
Outside of the US or inside of the
Yeah,
US?
outside of the US.
Outside of the US, I actually really liked Austria. I thought that was a
Oh,
really cool place. Um, I would I would venture to say Munich, but I don't know that I could. I don't know. I can't speak German. So it's hard. It's a very hard language to learn. Um, I almost got to go to Japan, and I've always felt like Japan would be a place that I would do well in,
yeah.
just climate wise and like culture wise.
Mm.
Um, I've been to London a couple times, and the greater England. I can't remember where in England we went. I've seen Stonehenge and all that crap,
Oh
but
yeah,
you know,
of course.
it was great. I loved London too. London was an awesome place to go. Um, see, I was not a big fan of Paris. Sorry, guys. Outside of Paris was great. I,
Mm.
I would probably say, yeah, I guess looking back, because I've only probably been to like 8 or 9 European cities, but the ones that stuck out were Austria or Vienna and London for sure. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. You've been to more cities than some Europeans have, and people actually live here. So,
I think I've been to
um,
like 28 states now, so that's 28 out of 50. Should be more, but yeah.
Um, we're almost out of time here, so just going to wrap this up with really, it's what you success is measured in very unique ways these days. We know this. It's not all about
Mm.
sales anymore, and it's certainly quite emphasis on numbers. But your personal view of success is completely different to the wider view of success. So, Requiem, what would success for it look like in your opinion?
Oh, that's a tough question. Yeah. Yeah, because it's like the status quo is numbers, right?
Mm,
Everything is like based on numbers and even sometimes what I'm noticing is people don't really look beyond the number,
hmm
i.e. like stream length and like you're like what does that really come from? What does it even matter? Like just because you got X amount of streams, does that really mean that X amount of people liked it? You know?
hmm
So I think, yeah, I mean, really the success is probably in like just people showing up to shows and
hmm
or I guess buying merch. I'm not one to push our merch. The vinyls look sick. See that one over there, but yeah, I guess it's merch sales. It would probably be more of like a hard figure. But I mean, honestly, like what would make us happy is like if we were just playing shows and people came out and said hi to us, said what's up, and
Yeah.
enjoyed the music. That's probably the coolest thing. We're all people. So and we're all like metal people. We I miss the local Bay Area like tight knit community that we have. We and sort of a side story, we got to do like a beer release party at one of my favorite breweries back in the Bay Area. So they brewed us a
Mm.
beer. It was awesome. I have the can here. It's called the Ruin Lager. So
Nice.
yeah, so they brewed us a beer. We had like a listening party. A bunch of friends came. Like that's my favorite thing. So like, you
Oh.
know, success really to me is just, connecting, I feel like with people.
Which is completely fair. A little bit of money going your way won't do any harm. Sell some of those vinyls and
Yeah.
bigger things from that. But hell, if people are enjoying it and you're just having a good time, that will totally do. I look forward to seeing how the album does over the next year or so, and I look even more forward to seeing what comes next from you, because by the sound of it, it's going to be very exciting. Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Carl, I super appreciate you. Thanks for having me, and hopefully we get to make it out to the UK soon.
Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It does help us out. You can find us at gbhbl.com and across all social media platforms. And if you really want to give us a bit of extra support, please consider buying us a cup of coffee over on our coffee page. Thank you.